Thank you for joining us on the Winning at Selling podcast. I'm Professor Scott Plum of the Minnesota Sales Institute, and with me is Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems.
According to a Hubspot survey conducted in 2016, only 3% of respondents believe that salespeople are trustworthy. Only 3%? That's pretty low. But it's not my fault, is it? Or yours? Well, perhaps it is, because we're all responsible for how our profession is perceived by our customers. So we'll be as honest as possible as Scott and I discuss being trustworthy and other interesting ideas on episode 540 of the Winning at Selling podcast.
Well, this is going to be an interesting topic, Bill. I'm really glad that you brought it up. And it really complements our last episode with Manny Style on listening and effective listening and really sharing a process of how can we have a structured listening system that we can adopt? And when it comes to building trust, you're building trust and rapport. And what's the most active activity?
See, now you're giving away the next section, Scott. You're too far ahead. Okay. Let's get into the book club.
I'm trying to set it up.
I know you are.
Our book club today is from the book, The Theory of Accountability. We're going to cover part 2, chapters 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now, I mean, that seems like a lot of chapters, but these are short chapters. And if you really want to be able to listen to the interview with Sam Silverstein, who we had on the show, that's episode 534. So part 2, we're going to talk about creating the experience. Chapter 6 is excuse or possibility. I always listen for a disease that sometimes salespeople catch, and it's called excuse-itis.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, and it seems like some salespeople, some, not all, some salespeople are always selling something. And sometimes they're selling a reason, and sometimes they're selling an excuse to upper management. And management is buying the excuse and then selling it to upper leadership within a company. So this is really a great chapter. And again, it's a great book when it comes to accountability and how to practice it effectively within an organization. So as I was reading this chapter, I thought in my head that every time I take on a new project, I want to go as far as I can, and I can always stop or I can ask for help. And look how far you went when you really practice that philosophy. If you don't try to do something new, tomorrow's going to be the same as it was yesterday. We really have to get outside of our comfort zone and really work on achieving greater results and to be able to ask for help if we need it, or to decide and reallocate your direction and your energy and going, this is not pursuing the way I wanted to. I'm going to change directions and go someplace else. That doesn't mean that you failed. It means that you tried something new, but it caused you to change directions and look at something else.
Yeah, I think what I liked about this chapter was he talked about how we make decisions based on limited information. And then we also limit ourselves because of our past experience and what we've done well and what we've done poorly. I always think of the investment disclaimer: past performance is no guarantee of future results. I think that's something salespeople need to hold on to. You can't sit down on your laurels because you did really well a couple of months ago, and now you don't have to do any work because you hit your month so well. I think we really need to look at any opportunity that comes our way with an open mind and think, why am I limiting myself? Why am I turning this down? Why am I not trying this new thing? And he talked about writing a book for Happy State Bank. And by the way, who called it Happy State Bank? Where's Happy State? I don't know. Anyway, he talked about it didn't look like the right decision at the time, but how do we know? And sometimes we judge things based on really bad information, and we don't really judge things based on what they are.
And we have to adjust as the market adjusts. I mean, I was recently cleaning out a storage unit. It's amazing how many cassettes and VHS tapes I had of training programs. And it's like, well, I mean, the stuff is still relevant, it's still foundational, but the format has changed. And we're just not delivering it in that format anymore. I mean, we have got to be able to change and adjust as the market changes and adjusts. And that's one of the goals of the podcast, is to deliver to you, our listener, relative information that can be used in the marketplace today, and to be able to look at all the possibilities and all the conversations that you have.
So let's go on to chapter 7.
Chapter 7, here's a quote out of the chapter that I really liked. And I also believe that when you build more accountable relationships, it's easier to build an accountable organization. And this is so true when it comes to the conversations and the relationships that we have within the organization with the people that we work with. And accountability goes both ways. And this was in chapter 1. Accountability goes up and accountability goes down within an organization. So we really need to be able to look at the purpose of each of our activities and creating the experience, because we're stepping into a new experience. That's what the E equals MC squared. The E is experience. What experiences are we creating, and how are we creating memorable experiences for the people within our organization, and to be able to have a reputation of following through when it comes to our purpose and our sense of fulfillment in all of our activities. If we don't have that sense of purpose or fulfillment, we may not feel like we're winning. And I think salespeople are always looking for a win. Bill, have you ever experienced that?
Well, I think what he's really talking about with this purpose is, what is your purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to go deeper than I need to make some money, or I want to sell more. What is it that gets you excited, that gets you to do something more? And he talks about some things, that 4 different ways that we'll recognize our purpose. If we have a true purpose, it brings us a sense of personal fulfillment, which will be really crucial for chapter 9. The purpose connects us to serving others. If I just sell more widgets, is that really connecting to others? The purpose inspires us to move on beyond what we've done before. And then taking action on our purpose gives us a clearer sense of who we're meant to be. So he says your mission is your purpose in action. I remember a friend of mine, I picked a friend of mine up at the airport when I was in advertising, and I was working for B. Dalton, which was a bookseller at the time. And we're driving, and I tell him, he says, well, tell me what you do. And so I explained to him what I did about creating these ads. And he goes, well, what good is that? and I thought, yeah, what good is that? It really isn't fulfilling me in any way. It's just making some money. And I wasn't really excited by it. And so I think if we're going to do something great in life, we have to have a purpose.
Right. Another great question is, does that make you happy? As you describe what you do to another person, are you thinking in your head, does this make me happy?
Or well, be careful, because he's going to tell you happiness isn't where it is. It's in fulfillment.
I know.
That's chapter 9.
Yep. So I'm building a little
happiness is fleeting.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes I think, a friend of mine said, you're not looking for pleasing activities, you're looking for pleasing results. So I'm going to do a lot of activities that don't make me happy, but give me fulfillment in the opportunities that I get. I don't particularly like making phone calls, Scott. That doesn't make me happy. But getting an appointment and having a great appointment with a customer, that makes me feel fulfilled. So I have to do some things that don't make me happy in order to become fulfilled later. Every job has the ditch digging that has to be done.
Right. And some people like that, and it's a sense of fulfillment too.
Yeah, some people like the phone calls and don't like the appointment. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So chapter 8 is a kind of a shorter chapter, but it really kind of takes us through an exercise. And this is a line out of the book. He encourages us to really think through our purpose, as it will be the lens through which we look at all of our decisions, and take some time and go through that exercise. And that answer is your answer, and that answer is your truth. And when it comes to perception and fulfillment, like Bill and I talked, some people like making calls, some people don't like making calls. What is your purpose? How do you feel fulfilled?
Yeah, I don't think that making the phone calls is the purpose. But if my purpose is, and so I'll reveal mine, which is also my elevator speech, which is, I help organizations maximize their most valuable asset, their people. And I do that through sales, leadership, and presentation skills training. So to me, that's the most important thing, is to help people become better at what they do. That's where I get my high when I train. And so I think it's important to really sit down and think about what you want to accomplish. That's the old, what would your obituary be? Right? What do you want to say you accomplished in your life? And selling more widgets might not be it, but helping companies develop new products might be. So think about what you're really doing and how that becomes a purpose rather than just an event.
Right. Think about the healthcare industry. I mean, it's not about the long hours and the low pay. It's about keeping people alive or changing their life. And
Yeah,
that
you
can be
watch
very fulfilling for
somebody get
people.
better and their family greet them with joy. That
Oh,
can be very fulfilling.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Chapter 9 is living your purpose means pursuing fulfillment, not happiness. And this is a great quote out of the book, and it just really made me think about my relationships with other people. And the quote is, happiness is a construct, one that, for the most part, is created by other people. Wow. I mean, there are some people that are recluse. I don't think they're our listeners. I don't think our listeners,
I don't think you're going to be sales if you're a
I don't think
recluse.
they're
Yeah.
living in a cabin up in Montana, writing a manifesto. But I think our listeners are more extroverts. And I think that happiness can be created when we are interacting with other people. And once we work with other people to create a better life for them, that's a sense of fulfillment and purpose. And I think that's what most people, salespeople, want to do. And what the money will do too. The money
Yeah.
will bring us happiness and fulfillment too, because we start to live a lifestyle that is more comfortable and more desirable.
Oh, I think absolutely. Money is the scorecard for our ability to help other people. And so when we make money, we live a better lifestyle. We feel more comfortable. We're not so worried, perhaps, unless we spend too much about the money that's coming in. We have a little more security, but that's not the fulfillment that we have. Now, my wife would be more fulfilled if I made more money. She's, they like to feel that security, right? But I think we need to do things that give us a greater value or make us feel that we were valued, right? So as we come near the end of our careers, people say, well, what did you do? What did you accomplish? What's your body of work? And I think for me, these podcasts are a fulfilling thing because I can look back and say, look at 140 shows Scott and I have done in a row, right? We're going on almost hitting on 3 years this spring of solid shows. And that's a big body of work. It's evidence either against us or for us, Scott. It's some sort of evidence about what we've done.
Well, when we start losing our mind, we can listen to our own episodes and go, hey, I remember when I used to
who is that guy?
or do
Yeah,
that.
that's right.
I mean,
That's
God,
right.
that was really smart. What happened to that part of my brain? Well, it just evolved over time. But that's what I do when I read my book. I go, wow, this is really good stuff in here. Why did I ever stop doing that?
Yeah, that's right. Every time we teach, right? Try to not feel like a hypocrite.
Or somebody asks a question and it triggers something from our past to go, I haven't thought about that in 20 years, but how would this work?
That's right.
And give a response to them. And that's very fulfilling for I'm sure Bill and I.
All right. Well, great book. And as you said, the chapters are short. That's why we'll do 3 chapters next week, but some of them are only 3-4 pages long. So.
Yeah. But very insightful, very focused on a topic and very important. And again, it adds more meaning to just this perception of what is accountability and how salespeople like to avoid it. And I think it can be natural and normal for us to seek our comfort zone in the path of least resistance. But is that going to give us the results that we want? Probably not.
That's right. Well, let's go on to our main topic, and that is being trustworthy. Now, I know I said last week I was going to talk about stretching the truth, but as I started to do that, I thought, this isn't really where I want to go, because trustworthiness is more the topic. So we've got an image of on our show page at winningatselling.com, and it's called Marketing and Sales Has a Trust Problem, and it's the Hubspot survey. So I mentioned that in the introduction. It's linked on the show page. Go take a look at it. The good news is that salespeople rank ahead of, Scott, stockbrokers, politicians, car salespeople. Those are pulled out as individual types of salespeople, and lobbyists. That's not very good company to be ahead of. But we do rank below baristas and lawyers. So,
well, politicians didn't even make the list.
Oh, yeah, did. They're below
they
us.
did. They're there. It's 1% politician. So we're beating them.
All right. So what I want to talk about in this is, what does this mean for salespeople? How is it happening? And what can we do in our relationships with customers to be more trusted? So I'm sure you'll have a lot of thoughts on this. So number one, why aren't salespeople trusted? So a couple things I came up with. Number one, I think, is that prospects and customers know that we benefit somehow by making a sale. Either we don't get fired or we get a bonus. So they believe that what we say, that we'll say whatever they want to hear, right? Because we make something off of it. So I think the second point is people hear stories, they experience situations themselves where they believe a salesperson lied to them about the capabilities of a product, and then they get them to buy. So have you ever experienced that?
I have, and I think, it's very normal for us to look at past experiences to determine current situations, and that's a judgment that we have. We need to be able to be conscious of that, and we need to be able to control the conversation we have with a prospect in order to make a different outcome. But absolutely.
Right. I think also, let's say we make a mistake in buying, we buy the wrong thing. Well, we don't want to blame ourselves, so we got to blame somebody. So let's blame the salesperson who sold it to us.
Right. I was misled. I was lied to.
Right.
They weren't completely accurate.
Yeah. But I was the one who forced I may have even gone against the advice of the salesperson and said, I'm going to buy this one because I did my investigation over Google. And then we buy it. And then we say, well, the salesperson didn't tell me, but they did. I think also people tend to assign bad intentions to others. And they assign good intentions to themselves. So when mistakes happen, it's because that person tried to cheat me rather than that person made an honest mistake, or I didn't give them enough information. So if we're going to blame somebody, let's assign bad intentions rather than mistaken intentions. Somebody, right?
And that's a filter that we listen to everything through also. And when we are being suspicious of their intentions, then, we're doubting everything that they're saying.
Right. So we might go the opposite direction in our decision because we've already created a doubtful atmosphere. Or we listen to our brother-in-law who knows nothing and told us we had to buy, XYZ. And we do that even though the salesperson said don't. Right. I've known salespeople that have been manipulative. They've pressured, they've been pestered people. They've been ignorant of their own product's ability, pushy. We don't want to ever be pushy in Minnesota. That's like the biggest sin. If I work with non-salespeople, and the number one thing that they say they hate about salespeople is they're pushy, right? Of course, they don't understand what good sales is. And I think some salespeople are poor listeners or don't ask questions. So sometimes the person is doing it to us, but sometimes with these other issues, we're doing it as salespeople too, right? I mean, we've encountered bad salespeople.
Right. And sometimes bad salespeople end up adapting to an upset customer, and then the salespeople end up becoming upset. And the salespeople are kind of mirroring the prospect when in reality, the professional salespeople should be leading the conversation and handling the prospect in a way to reach a desired outcome that the customer wants. And I just think about a telecom company that I call, frequently to fix things. And I express frustrations, and all of a sudden they become frustrated with me. And anyway, I digress.
More than once I've had to say, listen, I know it's not your problem, but you're the person I'm talking to right now.
Right. Yeah.
And I need you to fix it. So Absolutely. I think also, I can think of an example. My wife and I were going to buy all new appliances. We're redoing our kitchen, so we want to buy all new appliances. We walk into a store. The guy asks a great question. He says, "You're looking for one thing, or you're looking to replace everything?" So we're looking to replace everything. Come on over here. Let me show you the neatest wing ding refrigerator. It's got a computer in it, and it's got all. My wife was gone the minute he said computer in the refrigerator.
Right.
She had no interest in a refrigerator that's going to have a computer that's going to be defunct in a year and a half. But this guy was all, it'll tell you what you have in your refrigerator. I do not want something that tells me what I have, but he didn't ask that. He just started telling us. And I think that's kind of the reputation that people get. He didn't want to listen. He just wanted to sell the latest wing ding refrigerator with the computer in the door. That can you imagine buying a $3,000 refrigerator and the computer goes defunct on it?
No. Well, and then it lasts 5 years.
That's right.
My grandparents had a refrigerator that was, I think, a burnt orange or a lime green.
Avocado, baby. That's avocado.
Yeah, I tell you, that thing lasted 50 years. I mean, It was around when my mother was born. It was incredible.
That's right. Okay. So what does all this mean for the sales profession, right? Well, I think we have to understand that our prospects have a bias against believing what we say. So they're coming in suspicious of us,
Mm.
especially if we're new. If we've developed a relationship, we've overcome some of these things. But if we're dealing with us for the first or second or third time, there is suspicion about what we say and how we're going to work, right? They may be looking to trap us to see if we're trustworthy. They may have some traps laid about, I'm going to ask them this question I already know the answer to and see what they say. So we need to be ready for that. And they're going to check on us. They're going to check on our facts. They're going to go back and examine, talk to their other people they know. When we talk about the competition, when we talk about whatever, they're going to check our facts with the competition or with others in the organization. So those are some things I think people are going to do, and we need to be ready for that as salespeople.
And we can use that to our advantage too. If we say something that they are a little shocked about, and then they go out and want to research it and they find it to be true, all of a sudden we're honest and we're truth. Yeah. We're trustworthy at that point too. So use that to your advantage.
Well, and that's really the third point, right? And that is, what can we do about it in relation to our own customers? And I think, you have a lot of things to say on this, so I'm going to let you run roughshod over me on this. But what number one thing is, I think, tell the truth about your products. If it has limitations, admit them. Still focus on what we do well. But every product, every service has things that are strong, things where we're a little weak. And when you're going to talk about it, you've got to be honest about it. And if you're not honest, you're going to get found out.
Very true. And I think this is probably a point that you probably agree with, is that salespeople can be very assumptive. And like buying a refrigerator, I mean, the salesperson's assuming that you want stainless steel and you want a computer in your refrigerator, which is not true. They didn't even qualify that.
Right.
And it had no value at all. And
well, it's a hell of a lot easier to sell if you qualify a little bit, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, what is it that you want? So, I mean, what decided to bring you in today? I love that question when I walk into a retail environment. Thanks for coming in. What made you decide to come in today? Well, I have a reason that I stopped. I mean, if I'm stopping at a tire shop, guess what I need? Not a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk. I assure you, I need tires, because I am not going to be wasting my time shopping.
I'm not stopping to look at tires that I might need in a year.
Yeah. So what made you, brought you in today? Well, I need tires. Okay. I mean, now you can
Another good question is, tell me what you've been researching.
Right.
In today's market, somebody has probably gone on the Google and looked at a couple of different tire stores. Tell me what you found in your research so far. Is a great question to ask for business to business or retail.
Right. I think finding out the criteria is how they make their decisions too. But again, I want to kind of focus on the topic of building rapport, being trustworthy, earning the respect of the prospect. And I think, the number one reason that salespeople don't get information is they start a conversation by being assumptive. And I think it's really important to be able to establish where you're coming from in the context of your content based on defining some assumptions. So a salesperson could say, I'm assuming that you're looking for the best value and not necessarily the cheapest price. True. I assume that you're
not really assuming that. You're asking that, but you're calling it an assumption.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, you need to also say, most people that I talk to are looking for the greatest value, not the lowest price. Would that be you, or are you looking for just the lowest price?
Perfect. I mean, and you're really framing it, and you're giving context to your content, and what information you share is based on what they're looking for. And this is where salespeople really jump the rails right out of the beginning, is they're not really defining what prospects are looking for. And
I think too, they find the littlest thing. So to use that appliance example, if he didn't ask, are you looking for everything, or are you looking for, one item? We go into the appliance store and we start looking at refrigerators, and all he starts to talk about is refrigerators. And he sells us a refrigerator and forgets to sell us the washing machine or the dishwasher and the stove. And now and the microwave. And now he's missed the chance because he didn't broaden the whole thing out with questions. And this is something I find that salespeople don't do. They start with a few questions. And then as soon as they get a little bit of an opportunity, they start to sell to that opportunity. They don't broaden the opportunity far enough to find out what the people really need and want. And they jump on the first thing, and, they sell me a whisk for the kitchen instead of an entire set of of appliances, right?
Mhm,
Because I
mhm.
said I want a new whisk, but they didn't ask me any more questions. And I find that
Right,
really common. Get the first thing. Oh, I asked two questions. Boy, I must be really doing some deep discovery here.
right, right. Yeah, and it's can be very easy to frustrate a prospect basic when they're at a point of wanting to know if you're trustworthy or not. So ask a lot of questions, find out what their expectations are.
Yep.
The only way you're going to be able to disappoint somebody is to not meet their expectations. So if you just practice that philosophy, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to be able to solve a challenge or support a goal or to solve a problem with a prospect. If you're not assumptive, know that the fears of the prospect are fear of being hustled, fear of losing control, which is where I really like the term work with, where you're sharing the activity and you're sharing the
I thought we were
decision.
supposed to help them.
No, we're not going to help them because helping is taking over. A lifeguard helps people because
No,
the
we don't. We
people
just sit.
are
I was a
drowning.
lifeguard. We just sit there and hope nobody drowns,
Right,
so
right,
we could just sit in
exactly.
the chair and look cool. That was
Yeah,
our goal
yeah,
as a teenage
exactly,
lifeguard.
exactly. Yeah. And I think you brought this up earlier is that they have a fear of looking bad. So if there's other people that are involved in their universe, and it could be a spouse, it could be children, it could be coworkers, is you always want to maintain your prospect's dignity and you don't want to put them in a situation of making a bad decision where they end up feeling like they were taken advantage of and they look like they were not competent in making the decision. And then the last one is there's a fear of paying too much. And that is defined by what is most valuable. What is the problem? What is the goal? What is the challenge? What is the desired outcome? How can we work together to get there? But I need information in
Yeah.
order to take a prospect there. If I don't have information, I don't know how we can work together to give you the results that you want,
Right.
too.
Right. Yeah. I think that's great. I think the other thing too, we need to have a pretty good level of knowledge about our products, services, and the industry. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the conundrum. The more we know about the products, services, and industry, the less questions we want to ask.
Right.
So
Right.
keeping yourself in the question mode and understand you're ignorant about the connection between all your knowledge of your product and service and what this particular customer wants. And quite often, you talked about making assumptions. We make assumptions and they could be right.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're still insulting because I didn't ask questions about it. And the person feels stupid for their challenge being so obvious because we didn't ask enough questions. So I think we need to really balance that understanding of our industry and our product with asking enough questions to find out how they connect together.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all focused on the goal of what the customer wants to buy. And people are willing to pay for what they want if they can find enough value in it. And I think finding that value is a process of building trust and rapport and asking the right questions. So this is a great topic, Bill, and I love your structured approach to it and bringing up all the challenges that salespeople need to be conscious of as they're communicating, both in email, in conversations face to face.
Yeah, I think the thing you have to always think about, and you mentioned this, trust is built a little at a time. Promises made, promises kept. That's how we build trust. Be honest in your answers, and people will start to build that trust. But you're not going to get it right out of the chute. That's something you're not just trying to be knowledgeable; you're trying to be trustworthy as well. To that end, I do have one resource. In addition to that, to having that chart, that survey, I've got the whole article. We'll link to that whole article on Hubspot too about trustworthiness for in the sales profession. So if you have a chance, go ahead on winningatselling.com and take a look at that.
And we're at episode 540. 540, you can find that link. Our golden nugget today, I'm sure some of us have heard it. It's from Ben Franklin. Well done is better than well said. And I think that well done builds a lot of trust. And that's why I think that it's really relevant. And I think, like Bill mentioned earlier, we judge ourselves based on our intentions. Other people judge us on our behaviors. And when we do something and we follow through on a promise, that adds credibility and that adds trust.
Absolutely. I think that's a great way to close it up.
Everything we talked about will be at winningatselling.com. This is episode 540. And again, 534 is the interview with Sam, if you want to listen to Sam, the author of the book that we're doing.
Next week, our book club will be The Theory of Accountability again, chapters 10, 11, and 12. And our topic is vindication or validation. I have no idea what Scott's talking about with that, but I'm looking forward to finding out.
Essence of human motivation.
Go out and get better one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.